I appreciate, Jack, you inviting me. I'm Professor Kling, and I've been at Kent for, gosh, well, I was a student there from 1983 to 1987. And I've been teaching there from 96 to the current time. So I've been teaching over 25 years at Kent. So I'm very interested in getting to know some of you more. Should we go ahead and get started, Jack? You want to just go since we have a few
Yeah,
people?
we can go ahead and we can get rolling. Just a reminder that this is being recorded and we'll post it on our YouTube channel after that to share it with the rest of the group. But yeah, if you guys have questions, we have a smaller enough group here in person, virtually in person, that we could probably be pretty easy going with the questions. So, but yeah, I'll let you take it away, Professor Kling.
Great, thanks. Well, I definitely, as I said, appreciate the opportunity, and I've spent, the last several decades really working with students, and it's really my passion to work with students at Kent. And I was a full-time professor at University of Illinois Chicago for about 15 years, and I also teach adjunct at DePaul University. And really, I have a practice which I'll tell you a little bit about in a bit here and give you some of my background. But the important thing is for you to know that I serve as a resource to you. That's kind of what I do for students, is kind of, I'm more interested in kind of getting to know you guys and seeing what your kind of aspirations are and how I can provide some guidance and some strategic direction in terms of getting to where you think you might want to go. And even as a 1L, Rodrigo, what might be good. And that's probably an interesting place to start the conversation. So I definitely want to get to know all of you and all of your stories, but my story is that I went to University of Colorado undergraduate, and at that time, in the late 70s, early 80s, there wasn't really much social justice-y stuff going on. The only thing in the air was environmental issues. And so it just so happened that I knew I wanted to come back to the Midwest, and particularly Chicago, to go to law school. And Kent had just started this environmental law program. In fact, I was in the first group of the first cohort of the Energy and Environmental Law and Policy program, of which I have a certificate, which is really cool. And so I came to Kent, and first year was, I mean, as all of you have experienced, it's first year law school. It was not my favorite time of life by far. Some people like it. I did not like it really that much, but one of the good, and I thought some of my professors were not very nice. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm a really nice professor, because I overcompensate for the ones that aren't very nice. And so I did have a really great professor by the name of Dan Tarlock, and Dan Tarlock, Professor Tarlock, was the most highly renowned water law expert in the country at the time. So he was consulting with people on the West Coast, the East Coast, all about water, riparian rights, water law. He was at the top of the game. And he was also one of the co-founders of the environmental law program. And so I had him for property first year, and I actually learned more in that class than most of my other classes, of which I still use what I learned in property law today. And so even though those classes are painful, those first year classes, I do pull off of the stuff. I mean, strange. I mean, I pull off the tort stuff and the contract stuff and property stuff a lot. You'd be surprised. So so at the about middle through the spring semester, I went to Professor Tarlock and I said, do you have any research projects or anything I can help you with over the summer? And he said, yes. As a matter of fact, I do have something. I've been asked by Lake County, Illinois, to research the solid waste laws across the country, because they were Lake. Are any of you from Lake County, Illinois? Okay, Jack, I think you are, right?
Originally, yep, no
Yeah,
suburbs.
right. And so in Lake County, they were doing something really innovative, which, by the way, is a kind of benchmark of my, kind of pathway, is innovation. And so they were doing this thing called resource recovery, where they were looking at how they could burn garbage and make it into energy, and then take the energy and wheel it to across the county to use as an energy source. It was very innovative at the time. This was like the early 80s, and they were looking at that type of kind of interesting alternative energy supply. So I ended up, now remember, it's hard to think about this, but there were computers, but there was no internet at that time. Okay, so basically I had to go to the stacks of the law school and really kind of research every state's land use laws by hand, and particularly as it related to landfills and solid waste management. And it was a daunting task, but I came up with a kind of nice study. And in the meantime, the client was Lake County, Illinois, where Jack's from, and they had a really great department called the Department of Planning, Zoning, and Environmental Quality. So they combined planning, zoning, and environmental quality into one shop, and it was like really smart people, really cool. And because I was working, on this project, I got to know the staff there. And so by the end of the summer, I'd gotten to know the leaders there well enough that an entry-level planner job opened up, and I applied for it, and they gave it to me. And so I then switched into night school. So after my first year, I switched to night school, which I did a lot better in school from that point forward. I was working full-time in a job as an urban planner. I did not have like an urban planning background, but it was a great job in terms of my land use and real estate practice, because I learned a lot about long range planning in terms of like subdivisions. I was involved in reviewing the approval for subdivisions, particularly in unincorporated areas. So you look really at sewer management, solid waste management, but mostly waste management. That's a primary thing in development, is where does the sewerage go and how does it get there? It's not a real sexy topic, but it's the most important one if you're getting into land use law and zoning. What's happening with the sewerage? So I got to work on those types of projects around, looking at new subdivisions, the roads that go into it, the stormwater management, and I ended up getting involved in a legislative initiative around stormwater management, and really looking at how to manage stormwater on a watershed basis as opposed to just kind of individual localities. So it was really great. I got to do solid waste work, stormwater work, zoning work, planning work. I drafted a lot of ordinances and things like that. So it was a really great job, and got me through law school. I worked there for like the 3.5 or so years, that finishing law school. I felt like I kind of needed to get into the practice of law. So I left the job at Lake County, and I got a job with this. He was kind of like one of those characters in one of those novels, like the Thoreau novel, those novels about lawyers. That's what this guy was like. He had a little, he had this corner front office on like Ashland and like, I can't remember the cross street, Irving and Ashland. And it was this like dumpy little office. He was this kind of dumpy little guy that used to smoke the cigar down to the stub. And what his practice was volume residential real estate. So he didn't really do much of the work. The paralegal did all the work. And he brought me in to help him with his volume residential real estate practice. And I learned how to do a closing at that firm. And I learned a lot about closings, actually. Now, closings back in 1986, 1987 were a lot different than closings right now. Now I do a lot of closings as well because I have a real estate part of my practice, but they were different then. So, but I learned how to do a closing, which is key. So one of my, a couple pieces of advice so far. Number one, try and do some research with the professor if you can. It's good for the resume, and you never know where it's going to lead. Number two is look for those, kind of jobs, positions that'll get you some experience that no one else really has. Like I was really lucky with this job up in Lake County. that's a good thing to get if you can find that. And number three, do a closing. Find out even if you're in this uh, group, the Land Use and Real Estate Law Committee, then it is going to help you in the future if you know how to do a real estate closing. I actually took a class in law school that was like, um, I think it was called complex real estate transactions, and it was taught by an adjunct professor that was a real estate lawyer. I learned so much in that class. So, taking those types of classes, getting the practical experience, I think is like really key. After I left Lake County and then went to work for Marty Krawick, I then ended up at a law firm that represented school districts predominantly and park districts. And so I got into a public sector practice where I was for the next 20 years or so. I did a public sector practice. So I did school districts, I did park districts, municipalities, so all kind of in the realm of public sector, which of course has a lot of land use and real estate. I did a bunch of work as a young lawyer around construction, getting to know, if you're interested in that area, you get to know the kind of AIA contracts, and that's a really great practice area is construction law, transactional and litigation. But public sector is really interesting and probably interesting to some of you as well, and especially the municipal side, because you really actually get to work on, land use issues, zoning, and things like that. So understanding, being able to navigate how municipalities work is really important. So, if you have a chance to take an administrative law class or a municipal law class, that's really important as well. I had a luck. I mean, and part of career pathways there's several components of it. One is you must, and especially in this job market, pull on your connections. Relationships are key to assisting you, and you've developed a relationship, or you will be tonight, as when I turn it over to you in a few minutes here and learn more about you. You're establishing a relationship with me, and I hold myself out to you as a resource. That's what you have to do, is kind of really catalog who your relationships are. It's a very difficult job market, and you need to pull on those relationships. The second thing is luck. I mean, some of it is just plain old, fashioned. You have to be at the right place at the right time, and that type of thing. And then the third is timing. It's a tough time right now with the practice of law, just because there's a lot of lawyers out there, and for you to get into Kent and pay what you pay to get through Kent, it was an important decision of your life to make, and so you want to make sure to set yourself up to succeed. So some of it is timing, those three things. I did practice, as I said, in public sector, both at Robin Schwartz, which is a school law firm, in-house at a community college, which was brilliant and fun, and then 10 years and became partner at Ansel Glink, which is kind of a preeminent municipal firm. I then spent about 15 years in academia teaching full-time at UIC. And now I have a practice that is, I'm a sole practitioner working right here out of my basement, kind of office setting, as all of you are. And it's working out well for me. Most of my practice right now is representing nonprofits, and many of them do have kind of a land use, environmental, zoning kind of real estate component to it. One of my clients is called the Spanish Coalition for Housing. They are really, really high up the chain in terms of affordable housing issues, the counseling, housing counseling, and finding, so I'm their general counsel, and it's a really, really fun, cool job. I also represent a number of companies, and then this was an important kind of lucky thing that happened. As I said, luck is part of it. A couple of years ago, when I first started practicing, I do some real estate transactions. I don't have a volume practice, but I was approached by a title company to become a title agent. It's called Attorney's Title. But what happens with these title companies is they allow attorneys to become the title agent, and then you sign off on the title work. And it's not like working at the title company. You're doing it as kind of a contract attorney, as an agent, and then you get a fee for doing the agency work, and then you also get your fee for doing it's usually on the sell side. Most sellers contracts say that the seller chooses the title company. So you get to do the title work, you get to do the closing, and it's kind of a nice little business. So I'm a title agent. I do closings. I do affordable housing, represent nonprofits. I've done zoning, land use, everything that you have learned about and think about in terms of what your group is, the land use and real estate commit student group. I've touched on, except for complex malls and stuff like that. I haven't done, but I could. It's not like I couldn't. It's just that, I mean, I'd love to. If I had a client that had a mall, heck yeah, I'd do it in a minute. So I wanted to, I wanted to stop. That's about 20 minutes, and I wanted to stop and get to know each of you a little bit better. You kind of have my background, so we're a small enough group, and I think it'd be kind of fun to kind of hear what you're up to and what your aspirations are. Jack, maybe I'll go with you last because we've had a chance to chat a little bit. Rodrigo, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Professor. So my name is Rodrigo Ferrando. I am originally from Venezuela, and I moved. Well, my family and I migrated to Miami, Florida. Grew up in Miami. Got my undergrad degree in history at FIU. I'm not sure you're familiar with FIU.
I am Florida International. Yep.
Yeah, correct, sir. And then after my undergrad, I took a year and I taught English and history in Madrid, in Spain.
Oh, wow.
And that was an eye-opening experience. It was the first time I ever lived alone. So grew up there, made me mature and grow a lot there. And then I returned to do a master's degree in history. So my original route in my life was to do academia, going to academia. So it's interesting that you shifted from law kind of to academia and then like kind of back into law. And mine was strictly to go to academia, and then eventually I shifted to law. So I got the master's degree in 2019, and then took a gap year in between. I was deciding whether to continue on with the PhD or start working and make some money before it, and then decided on a whim to take the LSAT and see how I did. Did pretty well, and I decided to apply, and the scholarships that I got were pretty nice. So then that kind of tilted the scale to, see how this goes. And I know maybe when I'm old and retired, I'll go back and just do something that 20-year-old me would have preferred to get the PhD. But one of the reasons why I went to Ken and I joined this student organization is because I've been around real estate my whole life. My mother's a real estate agent, and my dad's been an investor in properties ever since I could remember. And being exposed to that, I saw that there's a market for everywhere, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, or anything in between. And I'm familiar with the contracts, and in particular in Florida, a lot of the real estate agents do the contracts themselves. The attorneys come in kind of just for like boilerplate stuff. But so I helped my mom with the language barrier, and that's why I learned a lot about the real estate business, even though I myself don't have a real estate license. I was de facto real estate agent in a lot of the transactions for my mom. And so I learned a lot from there. And then that's where my interest in real estate came through.
Wow. Well, you are the type of student that I definitely want to, mentor, and I have very strong ties into the Latinx community in Chicago. And I think that, we can, do you have plans for the summer? Do you know what you're going to be doing?
Oh, right now, finding a job.
Okay.
Trying to find something in Chicago, yeah.
Well, I think we should talk, because I think that I want you to look. This is kind of and again, what I do with students is there's a couple things I do. One is I do what I call, and I teach this too, it's called a rapid leadership assessment. Okay. And the concept is, I just in the couple of minutes that you said what you said, I got a really good, because I have a ton of experience with this. So it's like, I pull off of that, and I pull off of my kind of just aptitude for this. And so I feel like I have a good feel for who you are. And so this is going to sound interesting, but there's this, I want you to look at this website for an architecture firm called SUMAC, SUMAC. They're new in town, and most of their work is in South America, and they are so extraordinary. I've been working with them. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Invest Southwest initiative that the city of Chicago is doing. So I got to know that. So the city of Chicago under Mayor Lightfoot is really looking at investing on the south side and investing on the west side. And the concept is that in order to invest, so much of that has to do with land use and real estate, because you have to look at how you're going to redevelop a corridor, how you're going, what kind of, land use restrictions you're going to allow, what kind of financing situations you can put into place. So this Invest Southwest, I would strongly encourage you to kind of look at that. It's really cool, and there's some great opportunity. In fact, Jack, who knows a lot about Invest Southwest is Liz Butler, who was my former student that kind of, put my name out to Jack to kind of speak to you all. So I got to know Sumac through this Invest Southwest project, and they're really cool. And I think that there might be an opportunity for you that I might be able to arrange where you would kind of go in as kind of an intern there and help them with some of their legal documents and some of the stuff that they need. It might be it just might be luck, timing. It just might be good for you. So take a look at that. When I meet with students one-on-one, which, the dime is on you to follow up with me. I'll give you my, Jack has my website, my email. If you contact me, I will meet with you again and give you 10 leads. But I think Sumac is like really is like perfect for you when you look at them. So take a look at that. And then we can talk more about, like, as I said, I think you need to be, and this is a tough thing when you're a 1L, but I think you need to be deliberative about what you're going to be choosing career-wise. And I think you need to kind of, take courses that are going to get you there. Like, I'll give you a great example. I'm teaching at DePaul an administrative law course right now, as I mentioned before. I never took administrative law at Kent. I mean, I practiced administrative law, but I never took the class. I don't know why. I probably didn't like the professor that was teaching it. I don't know why. Part of it is with law school, unlike college and undergrad and master's programs, there isn't, maybe there's more now, but I don't think so, because I've talked to a lot of students. There's not a lot of advising in terms of what classes to take, and it's kind of a gap in law school administration. So my advice to you is find a track and take courses when you can that will kind of, supplement that track for you. And I think, so I think, like, look for those types of courses, particularly as a 1L, you have that opportunity. So get back in touch with me, all right? And take a look at Sumac, because I think I can make some work for you there. Did you look at it already?
No, but I'm wrote down everything you were saying, so
Okay,
I'll
cool.
for sure reach out to you.
All right, awesome. Aaron, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Professor. Thanks for joining us today. It's nice to meet you. I've been sort of recommended to you here and there from other professors, and it seemed like a great way to get in touch today. So I
Great.
have a background and strong interest in municipal law. Before coming to law school, I was an intern in economic development and then the Corporation Counsel's office in Skokie. So I have a real interest in it. This past summer, I worked in the mayor's office for Chicago. And then this summer, I have a law clerk position with Ansel Glink. So
Oh, you
I'm really
do?
excited to
Oh.
meet you. I thought that you maybe had worked there. I'd heard, the turnaround sometimes gets the best of me, and I don't really know who's who. But yeah, I definitely think your advice is really nice to hear, especially about course planning. In addition to municipal law, my secondary interest is labor and employment law. So after taking labor law and doing a little bit of ADR work at Kent, it's nice to know that kind of coincidentally, a lot of my interests do coalesce and kind of converge on municipal law in one way or another. So I'm really excited about my work this summer, and I'm hoping that I can kind of parlay that into more. I worked in the mayor's office as a policy fellow, so like the intersection of law and public policy is something I'm still exploring, but I think they sort of go hand in hand as well. So it's been a real pleasure to kind of explore both as a law student.
Well, that's amazing, Aaron, and that's exactly kind of what my career path has been. All of those things that you mentioned. Did you work with Tiffany in the mayor's office? Who were you working
Our
with?
yeah, our we worked in the mayor's office under many different, so all of the umbrella organizations under the mayor's office umbrella. So I had projects with water management, the
Oh,
Office
cool.
of Labor Standards, which is a little newer, um, the Department of Public Health. So we were exposed to a lot of different areas of public policy.
So here's what I can tell you that Ansel Link is a preeminent firm. There's probably 15 or so other law firms in town that that service predominantly public sector clients. And one of the things that I think you're spot on, particularly when you're a younger lawyer, what happens is that you get a lot of assignments in a lot of different areas. So, and one of the things about these public sector law firms is that labor and employment is one of those areas that, that definitely, you get some assignments in. Now, there's firms like Seyfarth Shaw and others that have like, Lisa Calloway is another one that I could give you like 10 names of people that, these folks they only do labor and employment law. But I think for you, when I do my rapid leadership assessment, Aaron, I think to me, it seems that you kind of are more holistic. And I think you're really interested in the intersection between policy and law. And I think you're really interested in kind of the holistic approach to public sector. Not that your experience has been municipal so far, but like if you worked with the school district, I think you would love it.
Yeah,
Like,
I was also looking at Hodges and Louise for the
yeah,
summer, but I
yeah.
didn't. We connected, and Ansel Kling came along. So I agree that it sometimes it feels like an unusual thought to have. Although I'm happy to find other law students who have kind of wide-ranging interests. But yeah, I appreciate that.
No, and you're right. And my great mentor, mentee, and student, Mike Halpin. I don't know if you know him, but he's kind of followed that track. And yes, this is a niche. And again, I think, Aaron, a couple things. One is Ansel Link's a great place to be. The attorney, I was just talking to Mike earlier today, actually, and the attorneys at Ansel Link are, I mean, working in a law firm in Chicago is challenging because you do have to kind of watch your back along the way, and and it's natural. I mean, you're trying to get 2,000 billable hours. How do you do that? And it's like it's easy. Here's a trick, a kind of secret about public sector law practice, Aaron. It's easy for the senior partners because they go to a board meeting and they can charge 7 hours for a board meeting, bill for 7 hours. When you're an entry level associate, coming up with those 7 hours is challenging. So it's kind of they weigh the system against you. One of the things that I mentioned to Mike today in my conversation, my mentoring conversation with him today, was that one of the things that is important in these kind of mid to smaller size law firms is client development, and getting, you have relationships in Skokie. That's important. You never know when they get kind of something happens with their current lawyer that makes them want to change, or the politics go a certain way and they're looking to change. So looking at client development is really important because that puts you over the top, right away. I think Ansel Link is a great place for you this summer. I think that, it may end up leading to a job down the road. What year are you a 2L?
Yes, yes, I am.
So, and certainly if they let me teach my class again, which they didn't this year, which pissed me off, and I don't care that this is being recorded because I've already told them all it pisses me off. I mean, I'm one of the most popular professors, one of the most popular courses. I have hundreds of students that have said that I've helped them get jobs and career paths, and they didn't let me teach my course this year. And it's not really Steve Soul's fault. He's a great guy. It's just unfortunate. Hopefully I'll be teaching again in the fall. He's trying to figure it out. And if so, I really want you to take my legislative advocacy course because it's really aligned, that link and balance between law and policy. And it's really about using the legislative branch. Let me ask you one other question before we move on to Marissa, which is, do you also, and I kind of sense this, but not completely. So I don't know the answer to this question intuitively, but do you have political aspirations yourself?
I always tell people no because I just feel like there's it's a lot. And then someone asked me yesterday actually, and I was thinking if I had a little more faith in city council, maybe, but I don't know. So my
Yeah.
friends sometimes joke that they would like to, see me as like a mayor, and I always think that's funny, but who knows? I think for now part of the reason I went from policy to law, I think was a very deliberate decision to be maybe a more traditional attorney than a policymaker. But who knows? I think having exposure to both has been a real gift. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and it's great that you were able to do that. And I forgot to mention when Rodrigo talked that one of the things is a beauty of going to law school is you do get a terminal doctorate degree. And so you are a Juris Doctor, and it does, put you at a different level in conversations. It's not a PhD, but PhDs are, mostly for researchers. So if you want to be a researcher, then you get a PhD. JD is a really great degree to get because it gives you a certain imprimatur at the table, and it also, gives you the ability to be flexible when it comes to some of the, career choices you make. So I definitely want to have further conversations with you, Aaron, and I hold myself out to you. I've been doing kind of Zoom calls with students. They last about 15 minutes typically. I've been talking to students a lot. I mean, I'd say I almost spend probably 20% of my time in any given week talking to students, from DePaul, from UIC, from Kent. So, and then others that find me. So, feel free to reach out and I can kind of give you, I mean, because it sounds like you're kind of set for the summer, which is great. And I think it's great. In terms of one other thing before we move on to Marissa is, like I think definitely, bear in mind what I said in terms of like the courses that you choose next year. Make sure one of the things that you want to do, and Carolyn, what's her name? I can't, Carol Shapiro, like, one of the things, and she's great, and one of the things that I think you want to do in your third year, Aaron, is to start building a portfolio of writing samples, projects, stuff that you can show, Ansel Glink or whoever, Hodges Louisi, once you get to that point, or a municipality down the line, or a school district, whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of opportunities you and I can talk about, but you want to start building that portfolio to demonstrate your knowledge base, because one of the tricky things for all of you, although you have some experience, but even still, one of the tricky things is you're competing with people that have years of experience, and how do you kind of close that gap? One is by having a portfolio of kind of projects that you've worked on in law school. So keep that in mind. So yeah, feel free to reach out. Love to hear from you.
Thank
Marissa,
you.
what's your story?
Hi, Professor. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's nice to see everybody. Um, I am from South Florida. I grew up in South Florida.
Oh, wow.
I'm the child. So, hi, Rodrigo. I just moved to Chicago in August for school. I'm the daughter of two Haitian immigrants, and my parents are real estate investors and business owners. So they own real estate in Haiti, Dominican Republic, and the U.S. So
Wow.
that's kind of where I got my interest from in real estate. I graduated from Florida State University in 2020. While I was in school, I kind of started getting into wholesaling. I wasn't successful, but like I started getting interested in that. And then I decided to go to law school this year. So I'm really interested in real estate transactions. I think so. I'm open to other things. But that's pretty much where I'm at right now.
Wow. Wow. So first of all, you guys should just start a law firm. I mean, it's like, this is an obvious, I mean, you guys have a built-in client base, find a seasoned lawyer. I actually know a very seasoned lawyer in Florida that could, be a great mentor to you guys. But, and I forgot to ask you, Rodrigo, are you planning on going back to Florida, or are you staying up north?
Right now, I'm open to either or, wherever I get
Okay.
employed. But I know one day in the future I will move back because it's paradise. But
Yeah.
I'm open to staying here or going back.
And Marissa, are you planning on going back?
I similar to Rodrigo, like I like where I'm at right now, but I definitely feel like I have to go back to be closer to my parents because they're not leaving. So I have to
Yeah.
go back
Wow.
sometime, maybe in a few years. But I like Chicago. I like Chicago so far.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there are certain firms that have offices in Chicago and offices in Florida, and that might be, you know, a natural fit for you, like real estate firms. So it sounds like to me, kind of unlike Rodrigo and Aaron, it sounds like you really, you see yourself, you envision yourself kind of being a true kind of a real estate, you know, like transactional, like, you know, the complex commercial types of transactions. I mean, really work. That's fantastic. And I think that to the extent that you can nail that down as your kind of trajectory, the earlier the better. Because I think one thing is, and I haven't mentioned this, but you know, networking and joining the bar associations. As a student, you get a discounted rate. As students, you get into, utilize your status as a student to get indoors now that you might not be able to when you're practicing. So become a student member of, you know, whatever they are, the real estate, you know, law groups in Chicago, because you get, that's the networking. And so you will meet, you know, very sophisticated, because they all do this kind of like networking. They like to do it. So it's a very strong recommendation that you join these kind of groups. The second thing is as I mentioned, there are certain classes at Kent that, you know, I strongly recommend that you take as many of the real estate transaction courses as you can. And I don't know how many I haven't looked at the catalog lately, but you know, I know that there's, you know, opportunities for you to take courses that will teach you some of the technical skills. Do you have a place to work over the summer yet?
No, I don't. I've been applying, but I haven't really heard back from anyone yet. I'm a 1L, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't have much experience or anything.
But you do. I mean, I think that's part of it. Part of it is one of the things when you're doing your cover letters and your resumes is, you know, advocate for yourself. Instead of saying, I don't have much experience, what you really want to say is, I have experience and here's what my experiences are. See the difference?
Mhm.
And so you have to kind of like market yourself. And so, you know, working on that resume to kind of really lay out what some of those, and it's okay if it's family. I mean, you know, I listen, I just talked to this lawyer today who went to Harvard Law School. He is a brilliant kind of young guy, not as young as you guys, but younger than me. And he worked at Sidley in Austin, which is like the preeminent law firm in the whole city, the hardest firm to get a job at. He worked in the corporation counsel office of the city of Chicago, and now he's back working for his dad's law firm in Kankakee, Illinois. So it's like the family connect. It's nothing to shy away from. I mean, that's a great story. And in fact, I'm really interested to hear more about that story at some point. But the important thing is, you know, utilize that experience in building your resume and your cover letter and stuff. There are firms in town like Rudnick. I don't know if it's still Rudnick and Wolf. Jack, is it still Rudnick and Wolf? I don't know. That might be DLA Piper. That's right. It's not Rudnick and Wolf anymore. DLA Piper. Great firm. And see, the thing is, you're a woman of color, you know, that utilize that, because these firms are now there are you know, there are law like lawyers attorney associations that I like. There's the Cook County Bar Association. Have you heard of that? The
Mhm.
CCBA. So someone like a Richard Boykin, Boykin, would be a great person for you to talk to. And by the way, anytime, either today or when we talk in the future, if I give you a name, you can always put in the subject line, Professor Kling suggested I contact you. Because I mean, they know, like all of the attorneys in town know that I give students to them, and I'm very particular about which students I kind of have contact to. So I think someone like a Richard Boykin would be good. Someone like someone like the Powers, Jim Montgomery. I mean, some of the people that are affiliated with Kent. I think we should have a conversation and get you, at least 10 people to contact, and I think, Marissa, in my opinion, what you should do is shoot for high level law. I don't care what your grades are, any of that right now. You're at 1L. That ain't my concern. I think you should shoot for the higher level, the kind of institutional type law firms like a DLA Piper, okay, or a Sidley. That probably wouldn't be a good, but like there's some other ones in town like Freeborn and Peters is a big firm that does a lot of real estate work, and get into those firms like this summer. Those are two off the top of my head I can think of: DLA Piper and Freeborn and Peters, that you might want to look at. So, and set up a meeting with me. I'd be happy to kind of give you some others, 8 others. I promise, that's my guarantee to students. I'll give you 8. I'll give you 10 leads. So I've given you 2 already, and I have names.
So thank you. I really appreciate that. And you're right. It's hard. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't have experience, but I do. Like, I've learned from my parents. I've seen some things. I understand a little bit how things work internationally as well as domestically. So it's really cool. It has been a cool experience to see.
Yeah. And you know what? You pull off of those experiences because that's what sets you aside. I mean, if you think about you're a managing partner at a law firm and you get 1,000 resumes, what the idea is to tell your story in a 1-page document, 1 or 2-page document that is 2-dimensional. How do you tell your story? And you have to figure out how, and you don't want to be like, kitsy about it with like graphics and stuff like that. That's not what I mean. I mean, how do you express to that managing partner that you are different than the 1,000 others in that stack? And I think you have a good story, and I think we can find you some opportunities. I mean, the other side of that type of practice is corporate. You just go to like in-house counsel at like, a development firm. They have those as well, those types of positions as well. But I think it sounds to me like you're really passionate about sticking with this kind of straight on real estate, commercial, complex transactions. Really cool. And I think that, you will have opportunities to do that. We'll help you. Okay.
Thank
Promise. You. Yeah. Jack, anything I can do for you? We talked before, but let's talk again.
Sure. So, I mean, I learned last week I passed the bar, so that's fun.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. So it's been a good week. I'm currently working at Cyforth Shaw in their real estate department. So,
great.
And once I'm sworn in May, sometime after that, I'll start as an associate full time. So
that's fantastic. So you're set.
Well, sure, as much as I could ever ask for. Meanwhile, I recently started my own little investing business. I own a house in Indianapolis, so looking to build that portfolio up in time as well. And meanwhile, doing big commercial transactions in the meantime. So it'll be fun, kind of having both perspectives: smaller residential and then big commercial. And
so I want you to reach out to Greg Taylor, Senator Taylor. He is the state senator that represents Indianapolis in the Indiana Assembly. And I practiced law with him at a firm that I don't remember the name of because it changed a couple times, but he is an attorney, and you will want to meet him at some point, especially if you're kind of looking at Indianapolis. And he's a good connect for you. He's a nice guy, and if you can find him, plus he's a state senator, and so kind of worthwhile. Do you have political aspirations?
I did at one point, but I can't see myself doing it anymore. In a similar way to Aaron, I'm pretty pessimistic, unfortunately.
Yeah.
though that would be really cool to meet Mr. Taylor out in Indianapolis.
Yeah. And I think part of it is like if you took my class, which you weren't able to, Jack, unfortunately, Aaron, hopefully you'll be able to. I mean, the concept is I try and just instill this concept of hope in young people that you know, being a policymaker is a valiant profession, and there are lots of really good ones. It's important part of our system to have people that are smart and, you know, and driven to provide the public service. I know thousands of policymakers that are elected that have that as their primary, you know, mode of operation as opposed to some of the other stuff that you read about. So I don't want you to get too cynical, because, you know,
My thinking is I definitely like agree that, of course, like there are plenty of good eggs. There are some bad eggs, but that's in pretty much anything at a scale like that. My thinking is always like, what's a different way that I could provide value? I think running a nonprofit housing organization could be really awesome longer term, something like that. Doing nonprofit developments.
Well,
That's
I
something
mean,
that seems more attractive to me now.
I have an opportunity for you, which is that my client, the Spanish Coalition for Housing, is we're building the board right now. And if you're interested in talking to the executive director about being on a nonprofit board, you know, which I think all of you, that's another piece of your resume that you can build pretty quickly, is getting involved. And so if that's something that, I mean, I know you're going to be really busy with your new practice and everything, but this is kind of an easy hit to get on a nonprofit board. And so it might be something you should look at. It's Spanish, I think it's SC4 housing, number 4 housing.org. And if you look them up, if it appeals to you, be in touch. I mean, I can set up a meeting right now, you know, anytime to get you, and that might be a nice kind of segue into that affordable housing arena. So give you some experience.
That would be fantastic, and I'd appreciate that. And we're actually running, myself and a number of Kent students are running a pro bono property tax appeal program here in Cook County. So having a partnership with an organization like that seems like a great fit too, potentially. So that would be fantastic.
Wow. I did a case in like that for it was a small church on the west side, like in the heart of the west side of Chicago, like Lake and Pulaski. I mean, it's a rough neighborhood, but my client, who's my great friend, is the pastor of a church there, and they were paying real estate taxes. Like, what the heck? So I went in and kind of like worked with the people at the, as you know, at the board of review, and kind of got them to be able to kind of go retroactively and get their tax exemption, which is kind of cool. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities. So that's great. Well, it sounds like, I mean, one of the reasons why I'd love to talk to, you know, like the 4 of you is that it keeps me fired up. It keeps me very positive, because what I see is so different, like 4 such different kind of trajectories, and yet each one of them is like, you know, really, you know, this is why you went to law school, and this is why, you know, why you're in this particular club, the Land Use Real Estate Club, is because it kind of crosses over public and private. It's a kind of interesting area. So it just really is great to meet all of you. And I'm a resource to you for sure. Send me an email. I'd be happy to Zoom with you or whatever. Rodrigo, look at Sumac. Aaron, good luck at Ansel Glink, and we can talk. Marissa, let's try and find, at least contact Richard Boykin and look at DLA Piper and a couple of others, but you know, be in touch with me for sure. And you, Jack, I forgot, reach out to Greg Taylor, Senator Taylor. So I gave you all a lead today. How's that?
That was awesome. I feel like we should wrap it up on that, because that was really nice. I guess I think you said earlier it'd be all right if we share your contact information with the rest of the club. Okay, that's
Absolutely.
fantastic. And then I guess if anyone has any additional questions for Professor Kling before we wrap up.
All right. Awesome. Well, that's the way we like to do it. End early. That's the goal.
It's only a
And
couple minutes, all
hopefully
right.
the other thing is that, I hope that, this gave you kind of a respite from the stress a little bit, and just kind of some ideas of kind of hopefulness and thinking about the future, and, really kind of getting out there. So I appreciate meeting all of you, and be in touch for sure.
Thanks, Professor Kling. And until
right.
next time, everyone, that'll wrap it up this semester. We'll have election and executive board news coming out very shortly. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, or if you have questions about it, definitely reach out and keep posted.